Hi guys, I am Nu-Trix and welcome. Today we're talking about Bliss Alpha Synthesizer. Bliss is a company I talk often about. They released Groovebox last year. They released Bliss Effects, some reverb of the life, if I'm not mistaken. They released the Bliss Sidekick, and they were also behind the virtual album of Jean-Michel Jarre, Eon. So it's a company that is really creative and active, and now they are releasing a synthesizer, Bliss Alpha, which is the synthesizer. So before I do a demo, I'm just going to go through the specs so you understand what it offers. It's kind of a good combination of everything you expect out of a virtual analog synthesizer. It has, all of it. And a couple of cool things. At the end of the video, we will have a giveaway, because the nice people at Bliss decided to give some copies away as a promotion because it's a new thing, and it's kind of a gift for people following the YouTube channel because yours truly did some sound for this synthesizer. So that's it. Watch until the end for the giveaway. So let's just quickly, before I demo it, it's a mono polyphonic, so you can switch between the two. It has a built-in arpeggiator. Cool. There's also a motion sequencer that is not the arpeggiator, so you can have the two at the same time. And the motion sequencer, it's really cool. It's inspired by analog modular synthesizer, and the way you assign it to destination is really cool. And it's their first version, so I'm going to have suggestion because I'm sure they can push it a little bit further, but it's really a cool synth to start with. The oscillators, there's actually two stereo oscillators. What's interesting is the two of them can be stereos, each of them. So you can kind of play with the phase and have them wider. If you can change the shape in real time, so it's a variable shape, and also if you use a pulse or a square wave, you can actually change the pulse width. There's also a mono oscillator that is usually think of as for the sub oscillator, but it could be tuned upper if you want, so it's a third one. And there's also a noise generator, so there's basically 4 generators that you can use at the same time. Ring modulation, cross modulation, and hard sync. So all the classical stuff you expect are there. There's 2 LFOs per voice. You can assign it where you want. There's different modulation target. There's 3 DSRs. There's the amplitude envelope, there's a filter envelope, and there's a modulation envelope, assignable to whatever you want. Also, audio unit compatible. So that's a cool thing. You can use it wherever you want. I was part of the team who played with the beta and created patches. So some of the sound that you'll find in it are made from different artists, and I'm part of the list, so I'm really happy to do it. And it's pretty fun to play with that synth because it has all the bells and whistles you expect. And it's very efficient to work with. So let's actually right away dive in, go through the features, and I think the best way to learn a synthesizer and see what it does is to actually create some sound with it. So let's go. We have the main screen. Let's go through the basic stuff. You get Ableton link at the top. You get the playback, because you can actually have a sequencer, the step sequencer. You can turn it on and get the tempo for it. They've got MIDI in. I wish to have more options here to say where you want it to come from, but technically it's not a big problem because most of the time what I do, I use it within a DAW. So in the DAW I can select where I want the MIDI to come from, but it works with my Microlab from Arpeggiator. There's the very efficient share preset feature. You just press share preset, you make your sound, and you can send it to somebody else by email. So I make a sound, you want it, go share, give me your email, you have my preset, you can patch it in and it works. So very simple to use for that. That's really cool. At the top here, you have the way to navigate between, I would say, pages of the synthesizer. At the bottom, you've got the keyboard and controllers, your pitch band and modulation wheel, and you've got a hold. If you press it, it's going to hold the keys, and if you press scroll, then when you move this, it's going to move it. If you don't, you're going to scroll it. Okay, so this for all the control. And basically, now that you look at this, the synth is this section, the top half without the menu at the top, and that's where you move between the different windows, basically. The first top choices, it's called default, and you've got a little folder, and that's where you select the banks. So you've got a bank A, bank B, and then you get some artist banks like Nu-Trix, the Synth guy, for example. I don't know that guy. But let's start with the default one. And what you have is the first page is mostly, I would say, general stuff. That's what we call it, general. You've got voices. You want it to be polyphonic. Turn it on or not. You want to the retriggering or not. So it's going to retrigger the envelope or not. You want the unison. How many sound oscillators you want to play at the same time? Up to 6. And you can detune them right away. If you want the super saw sound, I mean, it's quite easy. You go into here, you select that you want the saw tooth, and then you go back to general. You put in unison, and you get that. Wide super saw type of sound. You get the glide, and you get the pitch band, how much this pitch band will affect in octave. So that's basically what you have here. Velocity, you have how much the velocity will control the amplitude, the filter, or the modulation, which is basically 3 types of envelopes that you have in there. The modulation envelope, modulation amplitude, and modulation filter. How much the velocity will affect it. Then you've got the arpeggiator right away. The state is simple, on or off. Do you want it or not? Okay, let's actually bring that down. Let's bring that down a little bit. That's a little bit loud. Okay, so you have your state here. You want it to be synced. And then you can select in musical values the timing of the arpeggiator. It can be normal, up, down. So if you play 3 codes. Up and down. You want to be an octave, 2 octave, 3, 4, 5. This is a lot more than you see usually. 5 of it. The gate, how long each note will be, and you want it to repeat. So that's actually more powerful than a lot of arpeggiator we see. The repeat itself is okay, so let's put it to 0, turn it off for now. That's the arpeggiator right here. Of course, if you want to change the tempo, it's at the top. You've got tempo here, you can change that. So let's go into the oscillator. Now we only hear oscillator 1 and 2. Okay, we hear the 2 of them. That's a little bit different than what you see usually. And the fact that the way you have it here is not, you don't have a volume for 1 and 2, you have a balance between the 2. So you have 50% means you have, half of it is the oscillator 1. If you go on one side, you only have one oscillator 1, oscillator 2. So it's kind of a balance between the 2. And notice this thing, if we bring the oscillator 3 to maximum, that's the only one we hear. So it's different in the way you're doing it, because it's not just a volume, it's a percentage. So if you want this if you want this to be combined with the rest, again, it's a balance. With 50, you hear 1, 2, and 3. And the noise, again, if you put it to maximum, you only hear that one. It takes the whole 100% if you want it to. So it's slightly different than the way you're using it, but it works. Just remember that this is how it shows up. You have oscillator 1 and oscillator 2. The 2 outside of the modulation section here, the last column, it's the same thing. You've got the wave shape, and it's in real time. Let's say I'm going to just listen to 1. So the movement is very fluid and very simple. It sounds organic. You go here, you can change the pulse width. And of course you can assign an LFO to that and have this move in real time, which creates a lot of movement. It's really nice. You get the octave, what we expect. Okay. We have the tuning and semitone. Actually, yeah, 12 semitone, that's it. And we have the fine tuning, probably in Synth, my guess. And you have the stereo. Let's actually go back to 0 here. And listen to the stereo. That's a pretty cool thing. That's why we're saying that the oscillator is... This oscillator 1 is stereo. If you press it and you change it, play with stereo, if you put headphones, right away it becomes wide. So they're playing with the phase here. If you do the same thing with the second one, you're going to have a very wide sound. I'm going to say. That's pretty cool. Okay, so this is how you would play with the two of them. Then on the second oscillator, there's also a control over heart sync. The heart sync is here. Turn it on, and then when you play with this, you hear the... Let's bring that here. I'm gonna put it back to 0. I wish I had a 0 just by double clicking on it. Okay, Bliss, just add a double clicking on the stereo or the value. So if you double click, you go back to 0. That'd be so quick than just trying to figure out how to get to 0. This is just, I got it. No, lost it. So if you can just have the double clicking, that'd be just a very fast way to get to your neutral. Yeah, I got it. And let's go. Yeah, damn it. So, yeah, got it. So now if I want to have, you've got your sync, because you've turned the sync on. Sync is off, you hear all the movement. Put the sync on. You have that clear movement here. Okay, so that's pretty awesome. You have cross modulation. And if you ever try cross modulation with something that is lower, and this one is ring modulation. This is ring modulation. Okay, so pretty cool. This is what we, and if you add the stereo, it's just like, just a nice wide sound. So pretty cool. Let's put it back to 0 so we go back to the neutral sound. Let's forget about it. And so then you've got the oscillator 3. You have again the shape. So it's basically the same thing, but you just have pulse width and octave. So it's meant to be either a sub or an higher octave. Let's go back here. Oh, that's this one. I'm going to bring this one up. The envelopes are really simple to use. You just bring it up, and the graphics is pretty cool because right away you see that when you do this, you've got a longer envelope, attack, you do this longer. You can, so the graphic. So very, very efficient to, you see what you're doing. It's super simple. Filter, you have 2 of them. You've got a very fluid low pass filter with high resonance. You have a pre-drive Okay, you have also a low pass, an high pass. So you have the high pass, you got the band pass, and you got the notch filter, wide or very narrow. So 4 of them, and what's cool, you can have 2 of them at the same time. So you can have a low pass and an high pass, doing 2 different movements. So by default now we're using the envelope. So it's really fun to play with. You don't want one, turn it off. Just a low pass. You don't want a low pass, just the high pass. It's just, I mean, they're just nice. And the pre-drive is something that I really like, because you can have that complexity of the sound. You can have really rich because you use that pre-drive. Okay, and then you've got modulation. And again, pretty cool. You've got a different wave shape. Let's say we're going to assign it, and that's where it really shines. You click on target, and you say, I'm going to send it to classic stuff, the filter cutoff, okay, the amount, the speed, and you see the graphic right away. That's a cool thing. As you move it, you see your LFO. If you want to be beat related, then you get the value in musical value. Let's go back to the fill. Let's just open up so it's going to be higher. Also going to have more volume here. Okay, so you have this. And you have all these shapes you can use, of course. And then you can also assign another one. You can even use the LFO one to control the rate of the LFO 2. So then it becomes really wicked. So if you take the second one, you assign it to, I don't know, the pulse width. Well, let's assign it to the mixer. So now it's playing with the volume of oscillator 1 and 2. Second suggestion, guys, at Bliss, if you can have I understand that you might not want this all the time, but I would like to see when there's a value that is modulated, can we see it move? Like if it's the mix between oscillator 1 and 2, could we see that move in real time? So we have the graphic of the movement. I know it takes some CPU, and I know that one of the things that is great about Bliss is that it doesn't take a lot of CPU, so you can run a couple of, a lot of them in real time. I did a song using, I think, 7 of them. Kick, snare, hi-hat, bass, pad, and lead, and just like playing with them. So it's really not CPU intensive, so you can run a lot of it. So I understand that if we add this, maybe it's going to be more intensive, but let's say you can have it and you can turn it off if you don't want to. So it would be just like super simple to see what's in movement right now, because this is pretty nice. Actually, let's send this to the LFO, the filter. Oh, let's send this to, and of course, I'm a modulation freak, so I would love to have all the knobs, every value here. That'd be so crazy, just to have, distortion pre-drive, to have even the attack speed or the delay decay speed. That would be crazy to have this here. And this is the modulation envelope, so you can assign it to 2 different destinations again. You can even set it to the amount of LFO and the LFO rate again. So you can have a real modulation party here. And the motion. Motion is interesting. Let's just be a little bit simple with the modulation. Okay. Motion, you can just type in what you want. And if you just, let's say I'm going to assign it to the cutoff. And so that it sounds, so that we have it, let's go down here and let's bring that down. And let's go back to Arpeggiator. So you can actually play with this, and it can be assigned to, again, all these destinations. So it can be used to modulate a modulation. It can be used to directly affect something, the amount of a modulation. And you can use randomness. So there's going to be some random reaction to it. You can change I'm going to go back here. Let's go back here, turn this one off. Right now you're telling you that every 8 note it's going to be changing. If I'm going 1, every 1 step, if I press 1 key, it's changing. The other one is saying every 2 keys it's going to change something. Every 3. So let's say I'm going to send it to the pitch. So I'm going to hear something like the tuning, or actually no, the pitch itself, pitch. If I put it at 1, every time I press a key, it changes. If I put it at 2, every 2 key, every time I press twice, that's when it's moving. If I press 4, 5, let's say 4, okay, so that's interesting, because if you combine this with the original arpeggiator you have here, you're going to go. So it's going to play 4 times, and then it's going to change. It creates some like awkward, but if you make it the right way, you're gonna have some bizarre and fun way to interact. So maybe I want to keep it 1, so or I want it to be assigned to my filter like I had earlier. Okay, so that's pretty awesome. And on top of that, you have effects. You've got a drive. That's really good. Nice like distortion. You're gonna hard drive. Actually, I'm going to turn off this one here. So I just want you to understand. So distortion is quite nice. Bass. So if you don't want it, go back to the crusher. It's an 8-bit or 6-bit, whatever it is, from 16 to 1-bit, and the rate is the sampling rate. Of course, low value become very nasty, but in the high end, you have that crunchy, crushing sound. Then you get tremolo. So if you're on tremolo, you have it. A delay, which is very nice. So this combined with the Arpeggiator creates a, right away, it's that's it. That's just fun. It's just like super fun to have something with this. And then you've got the last one is the reverb. That is what we expect out of a synthesizer. Sounds good, easy to use. All the features are there. I would like to have even more matrix options of modulation, but that's my request for every synthesizer I find. I would like to be able to assign even the modulation to the reverb, or the delay, or the tremolo, or the crusher. It's same thing with the LFO. I would like to send the LFO to the depth of the crusher. So I could do some weird evolution of the sound by controlling any type of any part of the synthesizer using the LFO or the modulation. So for me, if anybody, when they create a synth, assign all the knobs as a destination or a source of modulation, I'm a happy guy. So if it's possible, go for it, man. Go for it. Before we end, let's just listen to some of the sound. It gives you an idea of what else it can do. So these are kick sounds. The analog hi-hats. Bass sequence. And you have a lot of them right away, you know. See, just like this, you go. So a lot of these sounds here. Another one in bank B, a lot of, again. Yeah, some from Jordan Rudess. it just, again, it shows you the powerful features of modulation you have in it. It's just like really nice. And the filter, I mean, the filter sounds really rich, and with the distortion or the pre-drive, and I like that meaty sound. That's cool. And well, I did that for fun. A classic little bass, but on top of that, I like the white sound. And it's always changing. And little keys. And a open hi-hat, just very long. If you press and release right away. And some sync sound, because it's always fun. You have others here, like very deep bass. That is Bliss Alpha Synth. So it's a cool synth. It does what we expect. There's a lot of powerful sound in it, and I like the wide sound it creates really easily, and the movement of the motion, the way the motion interacts with the arpeggiator is quite unique, and that's a pretty cool thing. If you like it, go check it out. The nice people at Bliss are giving away a couple of copies of this. So if you want to win a copy of Bliss Alpha Synth, click on the link under for the giveaway. There's a list of action to do. You have to, I don't know, watch a Facebook account, maybe something on YouTube from a guy called Nu-Trix. And when you do these, you add entries for the giveaway. And I don't know, let's give ourselves 7 days. 7 days after the day this airs on YouTube, the giveaway will be given away. That's kind of what it's for. That's it. Hope you like it and it's useful for you guys, and see you soon. Cheers.